Helldivers, the new cutting-edge warbond is here, and that means it's time to check out another new weapon. Our mission is to find the best weapons in the game, and that means we can't forget about those all-important secondary guns too. My name is Kodiak, this is Legacy Gaming, and today we're checking out the LAS-7 Dagger. So let's dive into the basics. This is the first energy-based secondary weapon in Helldivers 2, and I think there was a lot of hype around the weapon before its release, because the LAS-7 Dagger was offering something in this space no other gun currently is. It's a beam weapon, and that combination of managing heat and a continuous beam is something I could see a lot of players gravitating to, if it performs well, and that's exactly why we're here talking about it. To unlock the LAS-7 Dagger, you'll need to first unlock the cutting-edge warbond, which costs 1,000 super credits. If you've been doing your missions and buying the super credits from the Helldivers Mobilized warbond, you should have enough, but if not, you will have to make up the difference by buying super credits at the in-game store, or get back to farming. The LAS-7 Dagger can be found on the third page of the cutting-edge warbond and picked up for 60 medals. As far as the warbond is concerned, this is the second most expensive item behind the Blitzer, and will require a bit of farming to get enough medals to purchase the weapon. Luckily, with personal orders and any active major orders going on, it should be easy enough to scoop up. So let's break this down. The LAS-7 Dagger has a base damage of 150 per second, a fire limit of 5, and recoil of 1. What's not noted here is how many heat sinks a player can hold while the dagger is equipped, which is only 3. That's a crucial piece of information that's seemingly left off the info panel, but does factor in when we talk about performance. While you can't directly compare the two, we can look at the LAS-7 Dagger as the mini version of the LAS-5 Scythe. They are essentially the same gun, and I don't think I'm talking out of turn when I say the Scythe, by most people's standards, already falls incredibly short. By comparison, the Dagger has half the damage per second that the Scythe has, which makes sense, it is a secondary, but when you consider that everything else about the gun is the same, namely how the heat management works, it's not looking good. The damage of the Dagger ends up being the biggest issue because the balance between damage output and heat management just doesn't harmonize in a meaningful way. Sure, that 150 damage per second might be able to help you kill a scavenger or even a lowly bot, but outside of that, just a step up to something like a warrior or a berserker, forget about it. The issue here doesn't end up being the fire rate, the recoil, really none of those standard things that we've talked about in other videos. No, the problem comes down to the heat. On a cold weather planet where heat is removed twice as fast, you might be able to make the case that the Dagger is usable, but on any other planet where you're trying to manage heat, forget about it. Again, the gun simply doesn't output enough damage compared to how quickly it generates heat, and that really is the bottom line. As we've done with other weapon analysis, let's quickly look at each front of the war and determine if the Dagger actually excels in any particular situation. On the Terminid side, I think you'll find you can kill things a bit easier, especially little bugs like scavengers, jumpers, and small spitters. If you have the gun equipped and need to kill something quickly, the Dagger is up to that very simple task. But on this front, we run into swarming issues. Where other secondary weapons can be used to help cut through at least a couple enemies, the Dagger can't achieve any of that, including staggering any enemies that are close. There's a small window of effectiveness, close range, but not too close, and that ultimately is like trying to put a square peg in a round hole. We're talking about very specific scenarios where the gun could work, and that's not something I think most Helldivers are interested in. On the automaton front, you don't have to deal with swarms in quite the same way you do on the bug front, but you do have to face hardier enemies, which in and of itself is just as big an issue for the Dagger. If you've ever taken the Scythe into a bot mission, you know it's not great. Well, have that damage, and your ability to kill almost anything with the Dagger is non-existent. The only semi-interesting scenario is when you take the ballistic shield backpack. Because the Dagger is a one-handed weapon, you can run it with the shield, which I suppose is interesting and okay on the bot front, but I don't think anyone would argue that this alone makes the gun valuable or the combination viable. As you can no doubt tell, we are no fans of this weapon, and for good reason. As we've hammered multiple times now, the damage output just isn't good, and that becomes even more of an issue when you factor in the weapon's heat management system and lack of reserve ammunition, or heat sinks in this case. Even if you had a reserve of 15 heat sinks, the gun still wouldn't perform well because it simply does not compare to any other secondary weapon offering currently in the game. In its state right now, I can't think of one occasion where I'd ever actually use this weapon. It can barely kill the smallest enemies in the game, and while there is some value there, I suppose, we are setting the bar so incredibly low. No, I think they need to go back to the drawing board on the LAS-7 and look for a way to make it more viable. I would love a secondary option that has a very specific use case, like the ability to superheat medium or heavy armor to make it weak to other weapons. A gun like that with a niche purpose on the battlefield would really inject something interesting into the relatively boring secondary offerings, but until that day comes, I'm pretty confident saying the dagger is going to remain on the shelf. In conclusion, the LAS-7 Dagger is pretty terrible and not worth the medals required to unlock it, unless you've picked up almost everything else in the game. If you close one eye, spin around 3 times, and hop on 1 foot, you might be able to find a use case for the weapon, but that's not what we're here to do. As I said in the intro, our goal is to help you find and identify the best weapons in the game, and the LAS-7 Dagger is about as far from that reality as it gets. Anyways, friends, if you do pick up the dagger, let us know what you think. I can't imagine many of you will arrive at a different conclusion, but I've been wrong before, so let me know in the comments. Of course, if you like this content and you want more Helldivers 2 videos in your feed, do me a solid, hit that thumbs up, and consider subscribing. We've got more videos coming your way, so keep it right here. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.